This review won't have Season 2 spoilers outside of broad ideas and plot points and what you might have already seen in the trailer. Some spoilers for Season 1. I reviewed the first season of The Boys, link in description, and I knew at that point I probably wanted to watch Season 2, but I had a lot of complaints. Mostly about the show being edgy in a way that was immature and grating, and very much coming from a limited point of view, where characters who weren't straight, atheist, cishet white dudes felt less realistic, more dependent on stereotypes, or just not as fully realized. I have almost no complaints about Season 2. This ruled, this was great, this was so fun to watch, and without being a completely different show, it was a much more balanced, modern, relevant, emotionally engaging season of television. The characters are much better developed, especially characters from marginalized groups, but also Huey and Butcher. The satire is updated, and the tone is balanced so well, especially compared to the first season. Someone with the username I'll let you finish but first commented on my Season 1 review saying, "I loved The Boys while I was watching. The problem is, once it ends, you forget about it fast. It's like eating cotton candy." And I see that for Season 1, but for Season 2, it's actually stuck with me. I waited until all of it was out and marathoned it, and I keep thinking about it. About characters and little character moments, which I didn't expect. Even planning to watch it, I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. The character, The Deep, who I could not stand, gets so much more mileage this season. Season 1 with him is just sea creatures getting killed and the rapist gets raped. Eye for an eye, cruel karmic revenge that doesn't do anything for me as an audience member, but here they use him to explore Scientology and other cults and the Me Too corporate PR redemption story, and I think I enjoyed every scene he's in. There's a much more mature and much funnier exploration of why he is the way he is and just how pathetic and desperate he is, versus it being so base in Season 1. And there's a scene this season with an animal that I actually thought was very funny. Queen Maeve gets to do more this season, and her characterization is a little more complex. Frenchie and MM get a ton of development and feel less like stock characters. There's so much sweetness and humanity with them and Starlight and Huey. The show slows down to allow sweet humanizing moments between them as friends, as human beings who care about each other, which serves as a better juxtaposition with the darker stuff, making the darker, more violent, more cynical scenes hit harder. The characters also put up less with Butcher being a jerk, which is great. Without the characters and the show treating him as this infallible badass and bastion of masculinity, he feels more real and is more enjoyable to watch too. And everything that happens with Lamplighter this season is really interesting and compelling and darkly funny, like the rest of the show. Homelander was by far my favorite part of Season 1, and they use him so well here too. On top of Anthony Starr giving this consistently riveting, funny, terrifying performance across both seasons of narcissist Superman, they really lean into him being a sex weirdo this season. Like, incredible, absolute freak stuff, absolute depraved freak stuff. I loved it. In the Season 2 trailer I saw months ago, you can see him drinking breast milk, and I was like, yes. Just, this is so weird. This is like it's something I would have seen in some weird, like, movie that no one cares about, that nobody's ever heard of, but it's like on an Amazon Prime well-known show. It's also not portrayed in a way that suggests sexual proclivities outside of what is considered the norm are inherently bad or evil. He's not scary because he's a weird, maladjusted pervert. He's scary because of power and narcissism. But the weird pervert stuff is so funny and goes places that most shows would not go, in exploring just how depraved a person who grew up the way he did and who views other human beings the way he does would behave sexually. It's a big part of his character and a big part of the show. And he's my favorite TV villain now. I can't think of a TV villain that's more fun to watch and terrifying to watch than Homelander. The anti-capitalist satire in Season 1 was spot on, but other aspects felt dated or out of touch. Season 2 doesn't have that problem. On top of critiquing people as brands and the rise of white nationalism in the US, the cruel and dehumanizing lengths people go to for fame and money, there's scathing satire of manufactured Me Too redemption arcs with The Deep, some incredible satire of corporate pride, like gay pride, how corporations use marginalized groups like queer people to sell more products. There were some lines and moments I thought were so spot on from my own experiences being a public figure and being like a queer public figure, with who you are versus what people want or expect of you. The superhero feminism critique, making fun of Joss Whedon, the girls get it done motif are all wickedly funny. As far as problems I had with this season, the new character Stormfront's dialogue feels a little too contrived or scripted sometimes. I think the character is great, narratively a very well-written, repugnant character. Just specific lines of dialogue, especially early on in the season with her, don't land as authentic and feel very much like, someone wrote this, in a way the other characters don't. Kimiko gets fleshed out a lot and feels more human, but the communication barriers between her and Frenchie, or her and the rest of the group as she tries to learn English and communicate with them, seem a little unrealistic to me. Some of it is explained later on and makes sense, like emotionally and character-wise, but there's a whole subplot where she's trying to tell them something and they don't understand it that felt a little silly to me. Like, can't someone here figure this out? These are smart characters. Like, I know what needs to happen here and it's not happening. A little bit frustrating to watch. And unfortunately, I don't use this word a lot, but there are some tropes, disappointing, tired narrative tropes in this. Minor complaint here, and again, no spoilers, and the issues I have are evened out by a wide variety of really interesting characters and points of view outside of cishet, edgy, atheist white man. That helps make up for moments that were like, okay, did we have to do this or whatever. I'll leave a comment below with what I'm talking about because it is mostly later in the season. There's a character pretty transparently based on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and some leftists haven't liked that character. And for me, I thought by the end of the season she was really interesting. I think what has happened with her ends up meaning, the implications of it haven't been fully explored yet. And I'm not going to turn on a brutally anti-capitalist show or assume the show is against socialism or against progressivism because of what they do with an AOC stand-in, a character based loosely on a politician. And I'm not saying what they do with her is objectively bad or objectively critical of her or other leftist politicians. I think it's interesting and complicated, and I'm choosing my words carefully to avoid spoilers. I will just say if season 3 is like anti-feminist or anti-socialist all of a sudden, I'll complain about that. I'll talk about that in my review. But right now I'm optimistic, and I don't understand the impulse to be upset at this show in particular because of the way that it portrays a politician. The fan and critical consensus I've seen around season 2 of The Boys is most people have enjoyed it a lot more. Most fan backlash I've seen was over the AOC character or Amazon's release schedule, not the rest of the content of the show. Why does it work so much better than season 1? It has more mature storytelling. It's much better at exploring a variety of points of view, especially those characters from marginalized backgrounds. And the social satire is so much sharper and more relevant to the current moment, rather than having those Bush-era remnants, and being needlessly edgy rather than incisive. Having a Nazi character play off of Homelander works so well. The show explores how indifference to white nationalism is just support of white nationalism, and how Homelander isn't racist, but his America First, imperialist, and eugenicist leanings, the way he views people who aren't American, and the way he views disabled people, are very much in line with Nazi beliefs. I make a concerted effort to approach serious topics in my work with empathy and to be accessible, so I think viewers are sometimes surprised by my cynicism, or surprised or upset that I enjoy something that is darker or more unpleasant than their own specific tolerance level for cynical or upsetting or potentially offensive content. The Boys is very, very nasty and is full of cruelty and brutality, but with season 2 is just hitting the right targets one after the other, and some of it is so sweet that it makes the whole experience much more balanced and much more emotionally engaging. It feels just as visceral, but not try-hard anymore. It's more mature, and it earns its cynicism. Sometimes in shows like this you wonder why the average guy, no superpower character is relevant or included in the action, rather than being left behind or murdered instantly by a superhuman threat. And the answer is they're just a stand-in for average nerd guy audience members. But this season there's a running theme. This concept of Huey being Butcher's canary, like canaries miners would have in coal mines. I think first brings it up. And that sums up their relationship succinctly, but it also sums up why the emotional core of this season is so strong and why this season has so much humanity to it. Huey is fragile. Human beings who don't have superpowers or who don't have a family to go back to like or who don't deaden and mask their own humanity to avoid pain the way Butcher does, are fragile. And the way that is acknowledged as a strength and as something desirable to keep around as a barometer for everyone else's, especially Butcher's, humanity is great. It's really genuinely touching. Thanks for watching. We covered this season on Struggle Session as well. I'll link that episode in the description. Like I said, I'll type up a comment with some other thoughts I had so people who don't care about spoilers can engage with those thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this, please consider supporting me on Patreon or Ko-fi, also linked in the description. Thanks.